Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trek Before. This time and again. So as a phrase we probably use a lot here on It's All Been Trek Before, but time and again, I have asked you, and you probably helped because I know we got Patreon members out there to join us on the Patreon, patreon.com/IABD. It's all been done. You get all the extra content. You get video. You get everything sooner. You get bonus stuff like the bloopers from It's All Been Done Radio Hour, or our bonus episodes we do in between the seasons. Who knows what's coming up next? You're gonna like it. So yeah, jump on board with us there, and jump on board with us here at Voyager. We're just breaking that seal in season 1. Time and again, we're here for you, and this is Time and Again on It's All Been Trek Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trek Before. Some of your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
Jimmy-Jerome,
Shane.
and our Voyager regular.
Yay, it's me, Shane.
Sorry, I interrupted you. For Voyager, I will let you speak before me. You can be after Keith if he's here, and before me. We are here to talk about Time and Again, Voyager Episode 3. First impressions of Time and Again.
Time and again, I thought I was watching last week's episode. Similar temporal thing, very, very TOS in a way to me. And you had mentioned last week that we were going, or 2 weeks ago, that we were going to get outside this week with these guys, and we did. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. It was fine. It just did feel weird that it was like, oh, it's another temporal thing that turns out they caused it in the future, but in the past, but kind of a thing. Yeah, not uninteresting, but yeah, it was fine. I'll stop there.
Maybe this is why I like Voyager so much, because yeah, like you said, 2 episodes now in a row, time shenanigans, which are one of my favorite things. So literally my third note was time shenanigans. All right. So yeah, I think maybe having it back to back with the last episode, maybe not such a good idea because it's very almost too similar in tone. But no, overall, I mean, time shenanigans. I like it.
I didn't like this one as much as the last one, I will say. Not to jump ahead to rankings or anything, but this did feel like the first typical 90s Trek episode. Like, it could have plugged in the same story to a Next Gen or a DS9 Crew on a Runabout, and it would have been the same story. And the fact that they erased everything by the end of it, so it didn't matter to the continuity, I'm like, we're only 3 episodes in. Can we have some more of the Maquis stuff like we got last week? So I will say it was a come down from last week, unfortunately, in my opinion. But I didn't dislike it. I thought it was very typical Trek. It had an interesting science-y problem, the time shenanigans they were talking about. I thought that part was pretty well done. We saw that Tom Paris, who we had talked about either online or off, that he was number 2 on the call sheet after Janeway. Mm-hmm. So, you put your 2 main characters, it's like, oh, Kirk and Spock beam down and get stuff happens. Or Kirk and McCoy's stuff happens and Spock's trying to rescue them either way. But it also featured Kess a little more than I like because I don't like her. So all of those things contributed to knocking it down a bit. I will say it has another complaint from 90s Star Trek of you beam down to a planet full of aliens and they all look exactly human and speak perfect English. But, that's a Star Trek trope.
Do we think?
This is definitely one of the ones I saw over and over again.
Maybe we've talked about this before.
Recording. Yeah.
Do we think M-style planets lend themselves to humans like us?
Well, we know in Next Gen that that highly advanced alien race seeded all the worlds, and that's why they're all so similar looking.
That's
I don't know if they made it all the way out this far.
They did, yeah. Apparently, some of them did.
In-canon explanation for why everybody looks the same, other than like ears and forehead ridges. So at the beginning of this episode, we have Kim and Paris on the bridge. And Paris is talking about the Delaney sisters. That delighted me because the Delaney sisters are an ongoing thing for many years on the show. Oh, yeah. I think it's several seasons before we see them, but they're definitely a running thing of the Delaney sisters, and we will eventually see them.
I thought that was a very early MASH, or movie MASH, or early MASH series kind of thing of, hey, I know a couple nurses, or da-da-da. I mean, and many others, the twins, these girls, whatever, so.
Absolutely. It was definitely a Hawkeye and Trapper John plot, for sure. The Kim's resisting, because even though it's going to take him 75 years to get home, he's got a girl at home. Paris says he has 5, which is kind of odd because he was in jail, but Some girls like the bad boy.
That was the other thing that made me think of MASH. Was that was always the line in the movie and on the show, is like, whoever your significant other is 6,000 miles away. They're, none of this counts. Also part of the movie Road Trip. But yeah, that was the other reason. Yeah.
Chris pops in, says there's something weird. They investigate it. She knew there were 0 life signs before, and they talk about believing the stories of the Ocampa mystical stuff that we referenced in the pilot. Mm-hmm. I don't think the show, thankfully, goes too far down that road for too often, but it almost seems like it's gonna be like a thing they develop. It reminds me of Firefly, which was a later show, mm-hmm. but with like River's character they explored her powers eventually and they became like a major plot thing. I feel like Kessa's are like, oh, if we think about it, we might write an episode that's a little bit, but it's not going to be like something that matters. I don't think that much.
As my first fashion note, I liked her outfit and just having the Starfleet insignia there. But to make it Starfleet acceptable, even though Starfleet, again, we're how many light years away from Starfleet? But I guess, or you're surrounded by it, or both. I don't know. But
yeah, they won't give the Maquis the regular pips. They have special pips, but everybody on the crew gets the same comm badge. Nobody gets a generic comm badge. Unless you call those generic, which I guess. Yeah. They beam down. Janeway leads the away team, which, I mean, next gen, it's always going to be Riker. So if you're a next gen fan that skipped DS9 and went straight into Voyager, you're expecting Chakotay to lead the away team. But Shane, correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like Janeway leads it more often than not.
She goes to a lot of the planets. And I mean, you got to imagine that's probably, from a scientific perspective, I don't know offhand what Chakotay's background is, what his like major was, but it wasn't science. So being this far out kind of makes sense that the captain with the science background would go down more often to explore new worlds. That's my theory anyway.
That makes sense from a story perspective of the science thing. The reason it's Riker, not Picard, though, is not because of his lack of credentials. It's because after Kirk's missions, where he was always putting himself in danger, Starfleet made up a rule that the captain should be protected. The captain's too important. But I do think there's a difference between a Galaxy-class vessel like Picard commanded with 1,000 people and all the families on it, and Janeway's Intrepid with 150 people on it, her little science vessel. Probably a little bit different structure as well. So I think there's a number of reasons why it makes sense. I'm not mad about it. I was just like, oh, well, why is Chakotay not leading the team? I also like Janeway better than Chakotay. So I like Chakotay. I don't dislike Chakotay, but I like Janeway better. So I'm happy that she gets to go down.
Just to back up just a second, before they beam down, when Kaz is saying, "Oh, I'm feeling this," or "I sense this," or all that, Neelix just starts telling her, "No, that's not right. No, that's not what you're feeling." I'm like, God, typical man. Come on, dude. What is the deal here? I did not. I mean, I know we're gonna hate Cass eventually. I shouldn't say
everybody hates her.
We might not love her, but I'm okay with her so far. Like I said, I love her hair and I love her dress. But I was like, I did not like the way he was talking to her, and I haven't warmed to Neelix yet either. So even though I really like the actor.
I like Neelix a lot better when he's not being all patriarchal towards Cass. Like, get him away from Cass, and his character's better.
All right,
in my opinion. Yeah. And it does not help that the actress playing Cass is like 20, and the actor playing Neelix is like 39. It just makes it even worse when he gets all controlling on
it's almost too parental versus like. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He does have that air too. Like, I'm otherworldly. I've been out. I'm experienced, and you grew up sheltered in the underground thing. So I know he wants to protect her, but it's way too.
Yeah.
Gross. They beamed down. They said there was basically a time bomb under every street. It was dangerous power that like the Romulans had problems with, and so they banned it in the Alpha Quadrant. I feel like is that. Like when we had gas lines running into every house. I mean, I know we still have gas lines running into every house, but when we had like gas lines that were less secure and like instead of candles, we had little sconces on the wall where the gas was running straight to. Is that kind of similar? Like somebody lights a match and the whole block goes up?
Jimmy, I'll reference a show I think you and I talked about, Brockmire. Well, one of the jokes in it is that town has geysers of fire or whatever. It's all built under with the gas thing on it. Turns out there's an actual town in Pennsylvania that's been abandoned because I can't remember exactly, but it was some kind of mining thing. and eventually they made some mistakes, and so yeah, that whole town you couldn't light a match or anything. So that would be that, and nobody can live there now. It's in Pennsylvania. Anyway, roundabout way to say that's a place where that happens right now. But yeah, they never really explain polaric, do they?
No.
It sounds like in my mind it makes me think of nuclear energy, which I think is making a comeback now. Maybe it's safer. I don't know. For another podcast.
Super cool practical lighting effects though. Between the change, I love anytime they do something like that where it's just simple. Just turn a light on and you're in a different spot, and it looks great. That's why practical always wins.
One other thing, and I did not research this to see if that actually was part of the idea, but they're talking about an entire population being killed or destroyed in this horrible thing. And and I think this came up recently, but a lot of the things in Hiroshima, like clocks stopped, and like the blast was so intense, like shadows were left where people weren't, that kind of stuff. So it kind of made me. I didn't know if they were going for that, but it hit me that way when they were talking about the events that happened and were going to happen.
I'd say the thing that bothered me about the total destruction is it looks like. And maybe this is a thing about polaric energy. We just don't know because we don't know about polaric energy. But you'd think if like these bombs, time bomb under the street that was so destructive and blow everything up, there'd be nothing left instead of just like slightly disheveled and sooty rooms that still had like objects laying around in them. No organic remains. Maybe it only affects organic. Maybe it doesn't hit inorganic matter so hard. But to me, that was like, ooh, it doesn't really feel like this was a big enough bomb to blow everybody up.
Yeah, and we didn't get really see the rest of the planet as always, because budget restraints and all that constraints, I should say. But
they were on location here outside, which is expensive, which might be why they didn't have any money to make the aliens look alien.
And I wrote at some point that it reminded me of Buck Rogers or Sleeper, the Woody Allen movie. I know it's canceled, but bring it up. And then I looked a little bit into it, and I think one of the sets is a wastewater treatment plant in LA. And apparently, and I don't remember which, maybe I think it was TOS did some filming there as well. I didn't dig deeper into that, but I find it fascinating that the buildings they were building in California in the late 60s and into the 70s said sci-fi to everybody, and still did in the 90s. They were still able to be like, yeah, this looks, or at least like another planet or whatever. And so I very much enjoyed that.
Paris picks up a clock, and he's back in time. Yeah. Everything going on around him. Doesn't even need a DeLorean. They compare the subspace fractures to like icebergs. It would have been cool if we'd gotten some visual effect where we could see, like, if Next Gen, I feel like they would be looking on a view screen and we'd see how it works. And Voyager, I guess they just trust us to know. But I think it's such a cool concept that there's all these pockets that you got to be careful that you don't step in. And like, it doesn't even look like you're gone, although that part was a little confusing. It's like Janeway and Paris totally disappeared later, but when Paris disappeared by himself, he was still there. Like Janeway said, you've been standing here the whole time.
Yeah.
So was it such a small iceberg and it just went inside his brain and it made his brain disappear? I don't know. That doesn't make sense. It did not make sense consistently there. You would think Janeway would say you disappeared and then returned or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Janeway throws the kid under the bus when this scream, Latika, little kid screams when he sees him. Played by Brady Broom. Yeah. He's got 42 credits, best known for Dumb and Dumber 2, and this one episode Star Trek Voyager.
He's the kid in 4B or 4A. Timmy, I think it's Timmy. He's the guy they give the bird to.
Yeah.
Our birds are dying.
It's like he hasn't acted in a while, but some of the last things he's done is like voicing Christopher Robin and a bunch of Winnie the Pooh stuff. So Janeway's just so quick to throw the kid under the bus, which Picard would have never done. But I liked it. I liked like, oh yeah, he just got confused.
Yeah, she was playing that crowd of people, just lying left and right. I liked it. Well, she had to protect the Prime Directive.
Yeah,
right. Which at least they didn't have to say their ears were cut in a rice picker or something.
Yeah, you're right.
Just like
the Lord.
And Paris learned to read the clock real quick, so he understood.
He remembered those numbers on the clock in the previous time, which I'm like, I wouldn't have remembered those.
No, he's got some Rain Man stuff going on that we never learned about and we'll never hear about again, I think.
Maybe it's Starfleet training.
Back on the ship, the Doctor's still out of the loop on everything. They got to get around to fixing that. But it's so funny. I mean, you can
He's
only do
great.
that for so many episodes, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Just his general annoyance is just hilarious.
I did not like that when the Doctor said, I want to speak to the captain, and Cass said, she's off the ship. He goes, well, whoever's in charge then, tell me that I want to talk to him at his earliest convenience. And I was like, oh, dude, gender assuming, your captain's female. I know, like, I'm pretty sure they told him the first officer's dead. I just don't think they filled him in that Chakotay's the new first officer. So, because he says whoever, and, you know, he would have known who the crew complement was before. That was poorly written there.
Maybe it didn't even occur to anyone back then that there was anything wrong with that statement.
But they had a female captain.
Which was shocking then.
I mean, Jerry Taylor did not write this episode, obviously. It was written by, or story by David Kemper, teleplay by David Kemper and Michael Piller. So Michael Piller was helping this guy and didn't help him fix it. David Kemper has 7 writing credits. This is his... Oh, no, sorry. He has 7 producer credits. He had 24 writing credits. This was in the middle of his career, but it is his only Star Trek credit I see. Other than... I don't know why I said it was his only. He wrote 2 episodes of Next Generation. In season 2, he wrote Peak Performance. In season 3, he wrote The Enemy. But he wasn't a good enough writer for Deep Space Nine.
The 2 other things, the EMH, emergency medical, what's the H? I can't remember.
Hologram.
Hologram. That makes sense. I have a block there.
Wrote and produced a bunch of Farscape episodes.
He says, no one asked for your medical history. So clearly in the future, it's still the biggest pain in the butt to get to. You always got to fill out the forms at every place. Like, how do you not all have this?
Facts from the Alpha Quadrant is going to take a while to get through.
And then this just makes me laugh. He says, get a good night's sleep and drink plenty of fluids. And Kaz says, fluids? He's like, everybody should drink plenty of fluids. And then he says, don't leave without turning me off, which I think is that is a funny line. That's a good recurring bit already. I enjoyed that. So
yeah.
The advice is the same you give to anybody for anything.
Yes.
And it does feel, again, very patriarchal, dismissive of, oh, I don't know what's wrong with you. I don't care. Just rest and drink fluids.
You're a hysterical woman. Drink fluids and get some rest. Yeah.
Yeah, I really think Jerry Taylor needed to do a pass on this episode because Michael Piller's clearly dropping the ball here. How did Paris and Janeway get their new clothes? Did they have like a barter system where they were able to trade away their uniforms? Because we never saw the uniforms again.
Yes, we did. They were in the storefront. They must have traded them.
You saw them in the storefront? I didn't notice. Good eye.
Yeah.
Well,
that's awesome. I like that piece of content. I wish they'd mentioned they traded, but I love that continuity. That's awesome.
That is good. Also, I was reading somebody who was like, actually, one reviewer didn't like the clothes on the planet and didn't like that everyone had the same clothes, and somebody else did like that. So maybe they were just like, yeah, we'll take anything that's not what we're already wearing.
Yeah.
And this was actually my next fashion note. Fashion looks very much like the late 1970s, early 1980s Houston Astros jerseys, which are still, I think they're great. I also like that era of the Houston Astros, even though I'm a Mets fan. So I would invite people to go check those out. Just look for J.R. Richard, great pitcher. Burned out before he faded away as a pitcher. But anyway, they look very 70s Astros. And actually the Strokes, I think it's the adults. The adults are talking that video. They're wearing very Astros uniforms, but maybe it was an homage to this episode. I'm not sure, but I like the way that Janeway wore it, rolling up the sleeves, and then she's letting the hair down. I'll get more into her hair as we go along.
Liked her hair in this episode, so
I did too.
Can't find a screenshot with the uniforms in the windows. I was looking just because I want to see it. I totally believe you. But there are like a number of Reddits and things that are backing up what changed. Oh, there's a picture. I just found one on Reddit. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's got like 2 people pointing to the uniform and looking at it.
Well, because they did say that they're like, when they were still pretending to be from the other city, they're like, oh, this is formal wear. So they're probably like, oh, this is a new fashion trend, and maybe they don't have telecoms yet. And
I mean, honestly, why wouldn't you trade like 2 regular outfits for something unique and interesting that you can sell for far more? That makes sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. Especially if it was a thrift store.
Right, yeah.
If you will. Yeah. So I had 2 things on Paris. I think I can't remember how many weeks ago I mentioned, like, I haven't really heard the classic super stinger in a while. And when Paris says, if I understood correctly, this world is going to be destroyed sometime tomorrow. Like, I'm used to the understated next gen kind of, but this was, and I actually enjoyed it very much. I also enjoyed Paris being very dismissive of the Prime Directive, just being like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
And
Mad she was gonna.
she kind of
Well,
comes
she was mad
around.
he was gonna hold to it, but then once she told him to hold to it, like he was shocked that she broke it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I enjoyed that, and that shows
Yeah.
Janeway adjusting to the situation,
Hmm.
and then being able at the end to go back and be like, "Yeah, let's keep going." Also, and I'll throw it back to you guys. Lot more close talking again this episode. A lot of close talking again this episode. That must be a thing.
Voyager does that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
Well, 4x3. You gotta be close.
That's a good point.
Paris has a line where he's talking to the kid that we ate him because we are demons. I
Yeah.
thought that was really funny.
Little brat.
Did you
They
guys
end up
like
liking him quite a bit.
Yeah,
What?
Jimmy, as our foremost kid actor critic, what did you think of the kid, the character,
It was
and the actor?
fine.
I thought
I
it
thought he
was
was
fine.
fine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know that it felt necessary to have him in the
Yeah.
episode at all. I think it was just like, oh, let's have a fun little kid thing. But
I started to come around. I thought as an actor he was fine. The kid, I spoiler alert, he's gonna be my annoying pick, but I started to come around him at the end, but not enough to.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a nudnik. If you will.
yeah, Cora is intentionally damaging subspace to try to rescue them because
Mhm.
she talks about we can't do it in the same place twice because it's going to damage subspace. That's not good, right? Like
Doesn't
we
sound
just
like
had this whole episode of Next Gen where they're interested in galactic speed limit because you don't want to destroy subspace. Maybe just because it's self-contained on this one small planet, she's willing to do it. But it feels to me like you should just intentionally destroy subspace.
I think it was because it was already there were already fractures. They could like poke at the fracture to make it bigger for for them to get through. But yeah, generally speaking, don't f with subspace.
Yeah.
It's good to have subspace back because TOS talked all the time about subspace chatter, and I don't know. Maybe we got into it in TNG, but I feel like it's a different context we're talking about it here. But
The kid's a junior reporter, so he's
that I
got
respect.
gumption.
That I
He's
respect.
I'm gonna write about you in the school newspaper next week, and they're like, "Oh, dude, there won't be a school newspaper next week because there's no school or you."
Paris is just like, no, you won't.
See,
Nope.
that's another thing I love about this planet. They respect all journalists, including kid journalists.
They were so close to getting through, but Janeway realized they're the ones that caused the whole accident in the first place.
Yeah,
I did not remember that. See that coming?
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" Whoa.
This is why I like time travel. Was it because of them that they went in the past in the first place, or is it only was it always going to be that way and they just happened to like? I like that
and
when that.
it does play with that whole, the thing we've probably talked about a million times on Star Trek or anywhere, or any of our. I know Shane for sure. You've talked about it with. We've all talked about it in different venues or whatever, or shows, media we watch. That, well, stepping on a butterfly in a prehistoric era, does that, butterfly effect
Right.
and all that stuff, well, if I can change the past, does that change the future and all that kind of stuff? So I guess they're kind of, I was making, so one of my first notes was time and again was like, is this another time episode? And then at somewhere in this area, I'm like, is this episode just, are they already self-referencing themselves last week? Because they're like, we caused this. I'm like, this just happened, which I feel like is just another thing inside it. Is like, wait a minute, is this another time thing where it's like, they're like, we just did this, or did we just do this? Maybe this is happening in the future also. And time is a circle. We know this now. So I was like, what is going on here? But I don't know that was planned, but and maybe it says something about where they are in the galaxy, that maybe temporal and anomalies are more prevalent there.
Yeah,
Could be. Paris takes a bullet for the kid.
dumb move.
Heartwarming or
Dumb
cheesy?
move. dumb. The
cheesy.
kid was already gonna get exploded anyway. Why would you do that?
Right? He did make a firm friend now. As soon as that
guess.
happened, the kid's like, nope, now I'll do whatever you want me to do.
So it makes me think and it also so in Dodgeball, the motion picture, there's a scene where Christine Taylor lays out to keep Peter LaFleur, played by Vince Vaughn, from getting knocked out of the game. And it's a very similar kind of jump. And as we know, one of the production companies behind Dodgeball was Red Hour Productions, Ben Stiller's production company. Red Hour, based on Return of the Archon from the original series. His mom pretty much started the whole Star Trek convention thing. So I don't know that was an homage there, but it made me think of that all the way back through that, because it was like, yeah, it was a little cheesy. It was a little cheesy, but and then I'm like, I knew he was gonna live, but I was still like, how's this gonna work?
Yeah.
And maybe this is a place, Jimmy, for me to jump to. At the end, once she closes it, everything kind of goes back to the way it was, right?
Yeah.
It
Like
felt
they don't. Cass is the only one that even has an inkling anything happened. She's very Guinan in yesterday's Enterprise here, that whole timeline, alternate time, was wiped out.
Okay.
And nobody else even remembers going to the planet.
That's a better one, because I wrote down, is this a tomorrow is yesterday solution? But yesterday's Enterprise, I prefer that. And I know you do too, because tomorrow is yesterday. I think is your least favorite.
It's up there. It might be. I think that Captain John Christopher in the airplane.
Yes.
Because it made absolutely no logical sense whatsoever.
I guess I wasn't surprised, but our friend Smolinski, is that our friend who wrote the book? I haven't finished yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tom.
He I think he landed closer to me. He actually, I know he liked it more than me even, and much more than you, but he actually, I think he actually enjoyed it, if I remember correctly. If I have that wrong, but recommend that book. I need to get back into that book. I think I'm in the animated. No, I'm in a TNG on that book. But anyway, go check that out. Sorry.
Started it yet, but yeah, it was a delightful interview.
Yeah, it was good.
Speaking of logic, Tuvok had he had a great. I mean, he's sassy and delightful, but he had a great line when they were trying to figure out what to do, and he's like, logically this doesn't make sense, but since I don't have any other options, then I guess we'll just go with that. Which I wish more people were like that. I don't believe this is true, but since I don't have any better solutions, then all right.
I mean, that is the logical thing to do. If there's nothing else, yeah, might as well.
He has a couple of great lines down the stretch. He has one which is, the issue is whether Captain Janeway would go there, not you, Commander. And I don't remember if they went there or was a part of the vernacular in '95. I don't remember. But so I don't know. Maybe Tuvok started it, but I enjoyed that line. And then he says, "No, there's no logical reason to believe Kez is correct." And I highlighted that just because I know people don't like Kez, but I enjoyed that as well. So yeah, Tuvok. I'm enjoying very, very much. I look forward to more of him. So.
He is fun. Same scene. Kes knew Janeway came there and that she died there. That's so sad.
Yeah.
My alternate episode is either Kes's abilities don't destroy a planet, because that or they do, and she's so traumatized by it because she's 2 years old, right? I think she's 2, and her species lives like 9, so she's still a youth. I mean, the equivalent of 20.
Right. Yeah.
Like, if your abilities destroy a planet, you're going to be severely traumatized forever. But it didn't seem like she would even have known that she was the one that caused the destruction, because Janeway figured it out, but Janeway wouldn't have been able to tell her. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Timey-wimey stuff gets a little confusing sometimes.
My alternate episode was that when they get flashed into the temporal anomaly, they actually end up playing for the late 1970s Houston Astros, and so that. And
then they accidentally come back in the uniforms, and then the people see the uniforms and adopt them as their dress.
Well, and then they end up being there when the Bad News Bears and Breaking Training play in the Houston Astrodome. So it all connects. I saw the Astrodome once. I was never in the Astrodome, but I saw it. I think a lot of it was underground. I think they tore it down finally, but Yeah.
Did you like that Janeway saves the day just by shooting at it?
This
All
is
in subspace, I'm just gonna shoot at it.
this
Yeah.
is my next note, Jimmy. Well done. I wrote phasers equal Swiss Army knives equal lightsabers, because lightsabers same thing. First they were just a light sword, laser sword, and then you could use it for all kinds of stuff.
Yep. Toast
And-
bread, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like, yeah. She didn't have to put it on a certain setting. She didn't have to aim it a certain way. It's like, I'm just gonna shoot and ask questions later.
Well, she's a scientist, so she'd know what she's doing.
Yeah. She was quickly able to deduce what they were doing and the appropriate method to counter it, which good for her.
I'm never going to question Kate Mulgrew with a gun. Actually, I'm never going to question Kate Mulgrew, but if she's holding a phaser, I'm definitely not going to question her.
She is a phenomenal actress.
Yeah. I was annoyed that she waited until he was at the bag to try to get the bag. Like, you had so many chances to grab it while his back was turned and you waited.
She's honorable. She's very honorable.
That is true. That's true.
So the timeline resets. We get back to Paris and Kim. The date with the Delaney sisters does happen. If not, that would have probably changed the whole trajectory of the show.
Yeah.
We never would have heard them mentioned again. They never would have showed up in any episode.
And I enjoyed that it repeated, and I forgot I had another note about that, which is we've talked about there's not 1,000 people on this ship. There's only like 350 or something.
Like 150.
Okay, even less.
It's like not even the size of the Enterprise, the original Enterprise crew.
And I think Paris touches on this, but it kind of cuts both ways, which is like, oh yeah, he says like, well, if we don't get in now, somebody else is, and we've got all this time.
Mm-hmm.
And that can cut both ways. One is, okay, good idea. You get with the pretty girls or the pretty girls, whatever. Maybe that is their angle. I don't know, or the best catch on the ship or whatever. But also, you don't want to S where you eat. But we've talked about this before. If you're on a starship, that's going to happen. But if you're on a starship that's been flung so far, it's definitely going to happen.
Oh yeah.
So I like Paris. He's on the ball.
According to Wikipedia, Voyager had 141 people when they left and caretaker. After the caretaker mission, after they'd had like half their crew die and they had in the Maquis, they had 153. So maybe it wasn't half the crew died. It sure seemed like it because it was a lot of senior officers, but maybe not that many died because the Maquis ship.
That'd be a lot.
Yeah, they only have 153, and they did say it fluctuates, but in the 5th season they mentioned there's 150 people on board, so it doesn't fluctuate that much, or they add as many people as they lose.
Yeah.
But yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm out of notes. Like, it just ends. Typical 90s. Nothing happened. Everything's back to normal. Nothing matters that we saw. The only thing that matters that we saw was the Kim and Paris dig out the Delaney sisters. Everything else wiped out. Doesn't count.
I was literally, I'm conscious of where we are in the episode, and I was still like, oh, is this the end? Yep. Voyager just keeps on trucking on, and I mean, I guess there wasn't anything else to wrap up, but I guess there could have been a few more minutes. My last note is about our friend Joel Paulus. He plays the other saboteur. And
Turla.
Yes. He's the guy from the Seinfeld episode, The Comeback. He's the guy who says to George, hey, George, the ocean called, they're running out of shrimp. And then George thinks of The Comeback. Well, the jerk store called and they're running out of you. So he finally goes and finds the guy and tells him that. And then our guy, Joel Polis, as Riley says, what's the difference? You're their all-time bestseller. And then George says, on the advice of Kramer, well, I'm sleeping with your wife. And then it's discovered that Riley's wife is in a coma. And then George leaves. So, yeah. So we're still getting some Seinfeld actors. Not as much. But, and yeah, that wasn't the main. I thought I had something on the other.
Best known for The Thing, My Blue Heaven, The Rookie, and that episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
There's 119 credits.
Yeah.
There was another actor of note in this.
Yeah,
Nicholas Surovi.
Yeah, I looked him up and I thought I did not take notes.
Best known for Forever Young with looks like Mel Gibson. All 35 episodes of All My Children and this one episode of Voyager. He has 78 credits. His last credits on here are 3 episodes of Deadwood like 20 years ago. But it doesn't look like he's dead. So
would.
Hey.
I did some more research on crew size, and I am finding some conflicting information on Reddit because I can't find anything official. But it says that there were, well, different people, anywhere between 31 and 36 Maquis came over. Doesn't
Makes
sound
sense.
like any of the Maquis died. It looks like, depending on your sources, either 7 or 18 of Voyager's crew died.
Hmm.
So even if it's 18, like that's not many for 140, and it like half of them were like you lose your doctor, you lose your nurse, you lose your first officer, you lose your chief engineer.
Just bad
Uh,
luck. Bad luck.
Really bad luck, right? Really bad luck. Oh well.
Yeah, I will say, so as far as time travel goes, I love it. However, my least out of all the things that could happen with time travel, when everything resets and as if nothing ever happened in the first place, probably my least favorite out of the time travel tropes. But still time
It's
travel.
like
So
taking away magic. Right?
well, yeah, it just why did I watch this whole episode? Because it never actually happened. It's the same reason I don't like episodes where, oh, our hero woke up in a mental hospital.
Yeah.
Oh, everything's crazy. Like, I know that's not true. It'd be wild if that's how they ended a show, but like,
It was all a dream. Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
I agree.
Now I'm very curious how you feel about some big Voyager twist coming up in a future episode. I think you probably know what I'm talking
We'll get
about.
there.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll get
yeah,
there.
yeah. Now I'm very curious to know how you feel about that.
My biggest takeaway from the episode is if someone tells you they're from the future, you listen to them. Just hear them out at least. Come on, what's the worst?
Shane, I'm from the future.
I'm into it. I believe you.
Nicholas Sorovi, our other guy, he was in Bang the Drum Slowly,
Okay.
a baseball movie from the 70s, which I've never seen, but with De Niro and Michael Moriarty. Supposed to be a great baseball movie, even though it's only ostensibly about baseball. It's about a pitcher and a catcher, and the catcher is dying of cancer. And
Okay.
De Niro plays that guy. So if you're looking to get heavy, I recommend that movie, even though I haven't seen it either, but Nicholas Sorovi is in it.
This was directed by Les Landau, one of our regular Star Trek directors. Anything else before the rankings?
One thing when they first got to the protest, the one dude who he had his baton and he was just like trotting, and it was the worst crowd control I've ever seen.
Oh man, actors.
Yeah,
Who are we gonna have a drink with this week?
the Delaney sisters.
Obviously.
That's a really good choice. I went with Janeway. Yeah.
That's because Steven hasn't seen the Delaney sisters yet. I did Google, side note, I guess I maybe should have taught, it wasn't in my notes, so I forgot, but I did Google earlier today the Delaney sisters to see if they were named after anybody, because to me, I'm like, that feels like it's from a Bing Crosby movie or something.
Yeah.
The only thing I found was there were a pair of civil rights activists named the Delaney sisters. They were black women. Pretty sure Voyager's not black women. And for a second, I was like, wait, that's pretty disrespectful if you name them after civil rights icons and then you didn't even cast them, people of color. However, the documentary or nonfiction book called The Delaney Sisters, some whatever, came out in 1999. So while they obviously lived and did a lot of their work before them, I did not find any sources referencing them as the Delaney sisters at this era, only in 1999 and after. The sources I found mentioning them before that just said like their name, not each of their names, not the Delaney sisters. So maybe they took that because of Voyager? That's how they titled the nonfiction work? I don't know, but I didn't see any evidence that anybody would know who the Delaney sisters were before this episode was written. I struck out. Just sounded like it was something.
To back up my choice of Janeway for my drink this week, my inspiring choice was Janeway's hair. So I enjoyed and I feel like it's going to be I'm not going to pick that as inspiring, but I'm going to say I like her hair every week because so far that's at least two out of
My drink, I chose Tom Paris. He got shot. I had to go through some stuff. And then, he got to go hang out with the Delaney sisters and forgot all about it. And I was going to have a drink with him before he forgot all about it because,
Yeah.
He had to babysit that kid, too.
I don't want to have a drink with the kid.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but the kid was really annoying, so he needed a drink after that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And Atika is still my annoyance for the episode.
Same. Yeah.
Okay, I did not choose Latika. In fact, it didn't even occur to me, even though I did find him annoying. I put Cass, and I'm going to have a hard time any episode she's a focus not putting Cass. But she was so like not at all good. I mean, I know she didn't understand the power she was dealing
Right.
with and whatever, but she was so like, oh, I feel something. Just take me with you. Okay,
Yeah.
can you give me anything else? No, I just feel something. And then Janeway's dead. She died here. And they're like, what? Oh, I don't know anything else. It was just, I hate it. I hate it. This is probably why I don't like Cass.
I like that choice, Jimmy, and I felt the same way. Like, what are you talking about? And I think I've told this story, and I can't remember what episode it was on this podcast before, but of my first ex-wife. We were in airport in Vegas, and she's like, "I don't think we should get on this plane." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "I don't know." This so very Cass, and she's like, "I don't know. I just don't think we should." And so we're sitting there, and I'm like, "Should we get on it?" And then 20 minutes later, she's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay." And we always joke that she was a Jewish mystic, and she's had some seemingly supernatural, not predictions, but like punches that have come through before. But that one, thank God, didn't.
Yeah.
But Kez,
maybe Janeway and Pierce came back in time and prevented whatever would have happened had you gotten on the plane.
Maybe that's what happened.
Or the timeline was reset, so the plane no longer got destroyed.
Maybe I fixed it and then I forgot about it.
There you go.
Or she did. Forgot after we reset everything.
Who were you inspired by this week?
Janeway's hair.
Yeah, that's what you had said, but then I thought you said you weren't going to pick it.
Oh no, I am. I'm not going to pick it every week, but I am picking it this week.
Gotcha.
I went Tuvok for his logic. His logic. It was, you know what? Like that's an inspirational quote.
Yeah.
I don't believe you, but I don't have anything better. So
that's 2 in a row on Tuvok for you, Shane.
Yeah, I know.
I did not remember who I picked the first 2 episodes, but three-peat, it's Janeway again. I'm gonna have to come up with some other criteria because I can't just say Janeway every episode.
I mean, you could.
But 3 episodes in a row. She's an inspiring character. I really like her as a captain. Yeah. But yeah, 3 episodes in a row. I'm like, yeah, she's the one that stuck to the Prime Directive when you should have, got rid of it when you shouldn't, saved the day by blasting a hole in subspace with a phaser without even understanding what was really happening. You gotta give her some credit there. Mm-hmm. Was this episode better or worse than Parallax last week? You already know I think it was worse.
I put it lower, even though it's more time travel-y than last one. I still think it's not as good, only because it basically didn't matter. This episode didn't happen, really, technically.
Yeah, so we talk about recency bias a lot in the show. I almost think this is reverse recency bias, which is if these episodes were reversed, if we'd watched them in a different order, would we feel differently about them?
I don't think so. I think this is just an inferior episode.
I'm not so sure, but I agree with you guys that I would put this last.
So below that, Parallax is Caretaker. Better or worse than Caretaker?
I'd say worse just because it's yeah.
That's unanimous. I did, after you got off the phone last week, Shane, I did wonder if maybe we should I had a little bit of buyer's remorse putting Parallax above Caretaker, and I'm not really sure why, because I agreed with you in the moment, and I still mostly agree with you, but I do want to hear Keith's argument because I'm guessing he's going to want it above. So I just said, we'll talk to Keith and see if we want to change our minds. But for now, it's going to be Parallax Caretaker time and again. And now here we are less than a week later, and I'm already forgetting why I even had buyer's remorse. I was like, Parallax was better. So anyway, next week, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Heart of Stone. After chasing a fugitive into a cave, a Maquis fugitive into a cave, Kira gets stuck and is slowly encapsulated by a growing crystal stone while Odo tries to figure out how to free her. I mean, I know that was the A plot, but they're not even touching on the awesome B plot about Nog. Anyway, until next week, live long.
In your quaint little pre-warp world, and prosper. And none of this ever happened. We were never here.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?